Thanks for inviting me here today. This is awesome. And I warn everybody, I'm not a geologist. I'm a chemist. I know as much about geology as whatever. Anyway, so please, if things go awry, don't throw rocks. Just please find softer stuff. We've come down and are looking at three things that we believe the industry absolutely has no choice but to do if we want to thrive and survive. Now, I've called this the innovation truths for the minerals industry. And I'm going to talk very briefly about all three of them and very quickly. So I'm going to try and go over it in less than an hour and a half. There we go. And the first thing is innovation. We talk about innovation constantly. It's everywhere. It's in the conversations here today. It's in the newspaper. It's in academia. It's in boardrooms. It's in products. New innovative tastes for ketchup. New flavors of Lay's potato chips. New innovations in the car industry. It's pervasive. It's everywhere. And we've gone just a little bit overboard trying to define these things. If you look on Google definitions of innovation, there's 102 million different pages defining innovation different ways. In a lot of respects, it's like teenage girls. I can say this because I have a 19-year-old. She's actually studying down here. But when she was younger, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, have you ever had a conversation that went something like this? Like, Dad, I'd like to go out to my friends this weekend and maybe borrow the car and maybe go to a movie and I can go out for dinner and you can give me $20 and you can fill up my gas tank and I can keep the car until tomorrow and you can not worry about it and and what happens as a parent? It becomes a buzz in your head that really hurts and you do one of two things. You totally ignore it and it's like, what? Or you throw money at it, right? That's basically what you do. And in innovation, it's roughly the same thing. In a lot of corporations, it's totally ignored or misunderstood. Talk to executives and they go whatever, right? They just totally ignore it because they don't understand it, or they throw money at it. I was at a session yesterday with a bunch of CEOs, and there's a company in Germany, VCI. They do an annual state of innovation in the mining industry globally, and they pulled out the Canadian numbers. They're not published yet, but I'll share them today. 80% of senior executives in the mining industry, 80% have stated that their innovation programs fail. So that suggests they don't know what they're doing, or they're throwing money at it without really understanding what it is. So there's a challenge with innovation in general, what it means, and it gets better. As I said before, it's just a buzzword. It's turned into a buzzword everybody's ignoring. We go further. Instead of 102 million definitions of what innovation is, we have millions of definitions of different types of innovation. So are you doing incremental innovation, step change innovation? I came into the mining industry. I'm not from the mining industry a year and a half ago. I never heard of step change innovation. It's a new one. It's another one of the 67 million definitions. And we just slice and dice it so finely trying to figure out what type of innovation we're actually doing. We forget what we're actually trying to do, what innovation is. It just gets so complicated. My friend Jean here, he's an association executive innovation expert. Diane, field geology expert. We have two new definitions of innovation. We'll add them to the list. Right? I'm a step change innovation expert, and those long-haired hippie guys down in Silicon Valley, they're disruptive innovators, right? So it doesn't really matter. If you talk to executives in the industry, do they care about what type of innovation they're doing? No, they're worried about one thing and one thing only. And I'll tell you what that is in a minute. As I said, if you look up in Google, types of innovation, there are 67 million different types, and they all look like this. The 4 types of innovation, the 10 types of innovation, the 15 types of innovation. It's just ridiculous. It's getting out of control. As Kevin O'Leary would say, stop the madness, because it's just completely out of control. And the third piece, it only gets better. The third piece, and I like this one, and I know there's some academics in the room, so please try not to get offended, but we equate consciously and subconsciously innovation to research. And I ask you, are they the same thing? I would say they're not. They are not the same thing. And this is the example I like to use. It's a little hard to see, so forgive me. There's a report that comes out every year that ranks the top R&D leaders in Canada by amount of money they spend in R&D. And right beside it, it says the top innovation leaders in Canada. So look at number 2, BlackBerry. BlackBerry's number 2. And when this survey was done, where was BlackBerry? People were thinking BlackBerry would no longer exist. It was about to be sold off. Many people thought in 2 years it wouldn't be around anymore. It'd be gone. BlackBerry was on its knees begging for existence, and it was bleeding cash like a drive-by shooting victim in Harlem, for God's sakes. Yet according to our definitions, they were the number 2 innovative company in Canada. One question, seriously? And that's because of the research input they put in versus the output. So the first innovation truth is really simple. Let's simplify this thing. Let's just talk about innovation in two perspectives. I'm not going to write it down because I don't want to be 67,301 definition. It's just we want to be able to be agile and change it. And the first thing is very simple. There's got to be something new. That could be research, it could be process, it could be technology, whatever, that produces value. New equals value, and it has to be measurable and economic, period. End of story. Everything we're doing, if it's not totally related to CapEx, OpEx, return on capital employed, all these sorts of things, the financial drivers of the business, it's not relevant in the way we're defining it. The second piece, I love this. This is great. I blatantly stole this from another company. A number of years ago, there's this guy, obviously totally inebriated. I think this was taken last night after the reception, I'm not sure. Wandering around under the streetlight, and a police officer sees him, walks across the street, and asks him, "What are you doing, sir?" He says, "I'm looking for my keys." "Well, why are you looking for them here?" And he basically said, "Because I can see." In the mining industry, we all do that. The mining industry does that, and you're not alone. A lot of other sectors do this as well. We tend to talk to mining mineral sector about us, with us, for us, trying to solve our challenges ourselves within the industry. We're very myopic and focused versus looking outside our industry. And the challenges we have today are of the scale and scope that we can't do that anymore. It's not going to work. So what we need to do is embrace open innovation. And I'm going to give you some examples, really simple examples and definitions of this in a second. Open innovation, where we're looking outside of our industries, outside of our companies for all those really cool, neat ideas that can actually solve our big challenges, collectively, collaboratively. If anybody's ever read Henry Chesebro's book, it was published in around 2000. I'm trying to simplify this significantly. So basically, this funnel represents the boundaries of the industry. And the open end of the funnel, that's more the research development end. Closed end, that's where you're deploying technology, solving a challenge, right, in the current market. Open innovation has two pieces to it. We tend to forget the second one. And the first piece is insourcing. You're taking stuff from outside your sector, from outside your business, in either buying it, acquiring it, or in a collaborative sort of venture, and solving whatever the challenge is. And the second piece of that is that you're opening up because you've created new platforms or new technologies. You have the opportunity and the potential to address new markets, new companies, all sorts of new things, and address new challenges. So a real-life example we're working on right now, our environmental technology group has defined one of their targets as real-time sensor package for real-time online water quality monitoring. And when I say a sensor package, real-time online water quality monitoring, I mean this is it, self-powered, self-calibrated. We can monitor 9 things on the Schedule 4 from the MMERs, and we don't have to worry about it. And you can sit there and take out your BlackBerry and go, okay, what's my effluent look like in Peru today from this room? That's the target. That does not exist in the mining industry. Actually, it doesn't exist in any industry in that sort of form. And again, we're tackling really big challenges. So how are we going to solve this? We're going to have to look at technologies such as genomics. We had a speaker, we had a National Mining Innovation Forum a couple of weeks ago. One of the speakers was a company called FredSense from Calgary. And they've got, using molecular biology to detect effluent contaminants. And they can basically tailor bacteria to detect virtually any sort of effluent. Their next step is to put this stuff on a chip, right, and sense up to more than 4,000 things, 4,000 water quality parameters on a chip. So genomics. We're also looking at photonics, microelectronics, potentially nanotechnology, microfluidics in healthcare. Anybody ever do a diabetes test or a blood sample? That's microfluidics with a sensor. So there's platforms that already exist out there. The more important thing about this that we're really excited about is what's going to happen once that platform is created. It's a new platform, never been done, never been seen before. It's actually done by the mining industry, so that's going to help us quite a bit. What are the potential opportunities there for ocean monitoring, for municipal wastewater monitoring? If you're going camping and we have that platform and you want to know if we have to boil water, you've got something like this that can detect, is there giardia in the water, developing countries. So it totally changed the paradigm of water quality monitoring in a number of sectors because we're doing a different platform on different technologies. In a sense, that's, in the simplest form, that's open innovation, an example that we're working on. So truth number 2, we have no choice but to embrace open innovation if we are to thrive and survive in the future. There is no choice. And a really good reason, for those of you who are running companies right now, it's faster, cheaper, less risk, and more value. I approached a company who's spending about $100 million to solve a challenge and said, why don't you partner with 9 other people and spend $10 million? And you'll have an answer in 3 years instead of 5. Is that a good business proposition? Sounds reasonable. There's a really good example of this with AngloGold Ashanti with their Technology Innovation Consortium as well. They've built a consortium, and they're actually getting rid of underground mining. Getting rid of drill and blast underground. They're going to continuous mining, just nothing but gold. It's a paradigm shift in the industry. So it is being done. This is a rather complicated topic. It's the next sort of step up from open innovation, that is business ecosystems. And I'll state emphatically, I'm not an expert in this area. I've worked with them and I've helped set one up. But in the simplest form, they're basically harnessing innovation across the globe to co-create value, and that's an important piece. Co-create value, and then extract individually that co-created value to create something new for themselves, creating new markets, all sorts of things. I'll give you examples here too, just to hammer it home. And essentially the way it works is you get these niches which are assembled technical groups. It'll resonate in a minute. Assembled technical people that are trying to solve a challenge, right? And you get 3 or 4 of them, they're working together, talking to each other. And the critical piece is you've got this thing in yellow, this keystone of this organization. That organization can be a company. AngloGold Ashanti did this sort of thing in South Africa as a company, or it could be an organization that's connecting different companies together. So, as I mentioned before, a lot of different sectors use this. Everything from Barbie dolls to potato chips are using this. Anybody here have a Nokia, a Samsung, or a Sony phone? That was built on an open innovation business ecosystem. Apple operates on a closed innovation business ecosystem. A lot of different sectors have been using this and creating significant values for their companies by collaborating together. The mining industry does not do this, or the minerals industry does not do this very well, and we need to do this. We have no choice. And if you stick around for lunch, I'll explain that very quickly in a less sort of boring approach. So how can this work? Say you've got a bunch of geologists in a room, coincidentally, that are sitting there, and you're around the table last night and going, oh my God, my boss just cut my exploration budget, price of gold, price of copper is just tanked, our operations are hurting, our all-in sustaining costs are too high, we need to find a new deposit, they're more remote, they're deeper, they're undercover, how are we going to do this? And you get a collection of people and go, let's see what we can do here collectively together. And then what happens if you get the same sort of people talking about that in underground mining? We've got as much efficiency as we can at a drill and blast. For God's sakes, we're not talking about the chemicals and blasting caps. We spend 80% of our energy just moving empty vehicles back and forth. This madness has got to stop. We have to do something. And if you continue it into environment and social license and tailings management and continue that even further into energy costs are rising, they're out of control, there's very inefficient energy management. Energy isn't on the balance sheet of a mining company. What are we going to do about this? The prices are rising, and there's going to be a crossover where price and cost just meet, and we have challenges. And the same thing in processing. Comminution, the simple act of breaking rocks, accounts for 3 to 4% of the world's energy. That we've got to stop doing this. It doesn't make any sense, and it's 1% efficient, and it hasn't changed in 70 years. We need to do something about this collectively. And if you have other groups that are looking at surface mining or iron ore, and then you put an organization that coordinates and collaborates and facilitates and orchestrates all these conversations, the flow of information and technology, you have the world's first open innovation business ecosystem for the minerals industry. That's the Canada Mining Innovation Council. And I'll leave you with that until this afternoon. Thank you.